got it. So yeah, as we were saying, we use arrays and functions to do this task today. We're given a list of students, and we want to randomly assign each student a number of books that they've read, um, and then present that data efficiently. So when I say this, what I mean is we have a bunch of students, say Chano, Nina, Ben, and Camilla. We have like say 4 students, and we want to assign each of them a number. The number indicates the number of books that they've read. So say for example, I don't know, 15, 25, 10, 20, something like that, right? Um, that's what we'll be doing today, and we do this randomly. We'll see what the code for this does. The functions are already written for you, most of them. We'll be writing a few functions, and we'll be using arrays to call those functions. I'll again go through what this means. This is how it looks like. We have an array task, people and number of books they own, traversing books owned. This doesn't make sense. This is the web page that I showed you. But we want the ending web page to look something like this. The final goal is to make it look like this. Is it visible? Can you guys see it? Yeah. So when I say traversing books owned in order, you would have a number of books. Here it's 10 in this example. I don't know if you can see the space. There's a space in between each of these. It's 81, 55, 67, 70, and so on. And traversing names in order, so 10 students' names, Joey, Mary, Tom, Mark, Dave, and so on. So we do the exact same thing in reverse. Again, if you're done your if you're at least attempted your Q5, this should sound familiar. This is exactly what you did in your Q5. Now, how do you do the same thing in reverse? We look into that, but you basically, if you look at it, it'll be 75, 61, 16, 99, 72, and so on. The exact same thing in reverse, and the names in reverse. It'll be Paul, Dana, Andrew, and so on. And what we want to do is add up all of these numbers and then arrive at an average, the average number of books owned or whatever, read. Here in this case, 65.8. And then you have the largest number of books owned. In this case, it's 99, as you can see here, the biggest number in an array. It's what we're outputting, and so on, right? And then at the end, I'll move away. At the end, you want to print out as many stars as the number of books they have or they own or whatever. It's an interesting task as well. I'm going to leave this as an extra credit. It's going to replace your assignment, your Q6 in your assignment. This is going to be done by you. We won't have the time to do it either. So this lecture is massive. So let's keep going. No, Q6 is scraped off. You don't have it anymore. Instead, I'll show you the code for the rest of the stuff today. We'll be doing all of this. You'll be doing this part of the code, basically the thing that prints out the stars. And I noticed that getting you guys to do stuff is the best way for you to learn, because that 1 week you guys did everything, you all showed up. So what is an array? An array is a container or a collection of items of various data types. To show this, so assume you have tax documents, for example, right? You have a bunch of tax documents. The IRS, say, they file for, I don't know, they have, let's say 5 people, right? They have 5 people's tax documents, and they have a bunch of drawers where they put the tax documents in. So let's call this my tax document. I don't know, whatever. Let's call this Ryan's tax document, and so on. There are 5 people. And so how do you go about this? You would just open the drawer, you'd put in the tax documents, you'd close it, right? An array is literally the exact same thing. So here, your common thing is tax documents, right? But your array, in this case, can be anything else, can be a bunch of numbers, a bunch of strings, a bunch of, you can put anything you want in it, pretty much. So in this case, again, think about this. Instead of tax documents, you could say something like your student records, right? All of your students and your records are being stored in a bunch of cabinets. Say your net IDs, for example, mine is PR482 and whatever. I don't know, A, B, C, D. You have a bunch of net IDs, and these are all the drawers that they go into, your records go into. And in that case, in this case, this is what you're storing. What is the variable that you're storing? What is the value that you're storing inside those? Your net IDs, right? So that's what you're trying to store. In this case, in a PC's example, an equivalent is just, and that's what we call an array. Your array can contain, I don't know, numbers, it can contain strings, it can contain anything. A bunch of a collection of different variables, if that makes sense, that we've seen until now. A collection of numbers, a collection of strings, and all of that. And did you guys look into indexing? Has Professor Lau covered indexing yet for arrays? It's so hard to just start off with something like this and expect you to understand. But okay, so okay, let's actually give this a name, and I'll work this out as an example. Let's say Ryan, I don't know, wisdom. Let's call this Ben, and who else? Channel. Okay, so now if I want wisdom's files, what would I do? If I want wisdom's tax documents, what would I do? Right. In this case, it's an array. So I have an array like this. Imagine this whole thing is an array, right? It's something like this. These are just a bunch of strings, right? I'm storing this in an array. I'm saying my array has 5 tax documents with these names in it, right? In the PC sense, these are all tax documents, but in the tax document sense, what would you do? You would open your drawer, right? How do you know it's your drawer? You'd have some sort of indexing, right? You'd have some sort of reference for your name. I would call this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I would say the third drawer belongs to wisdom. And if I open the third one, I get your files, right? I get wisdom's files. If I want Ben's, I'd open 4. If I want Ryan's, I'd open 2, and so on. The same way, if you want 10 there, would you open the first one? That's what you do, right? It's the first one. It begins this way. It goes from left to right. Yeah, and if you want high, it will be what, 3, fifth. You'd open the fifth drawer. I hope I'm not confusing you guys. It's just I see a lot of blanks there. No, yeah, okay, yeah. So you'd open the fifth one, but the difference in programming, in those drawers we say 1 to 5. In programming, it starts off with 0. If I have 7 things here, I have 7 boxes. It goes from 0 to 6. If I want 10, I would say I'm calling this array. I don't know, ARR. If I want to access this, I would do ARR of 0. These are square brackets. Again, I don't know if it's 0 is the index. We call these indices. You cannot really do commas, but that's what we have for loops for. Again, ideally, if you had seen what for loops are over the extra credit assignments, you would understand you could write a for loop from 0 to 6, right? You could iterate a variable from 0 to 6. And you could say array of 0, 10, array of 1, 20, array of 2, 30, and so on. But you cannot do 0, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't work that way. It's basically you would if you want to access this, you would do this. The next one would be ARR of 1, and it just wouldn't be 0, 1, if that makes sense. You get it? You can't put them together. That means something totally different, which is a whole another complex topic in itself. I don't want to go into that. But if you want to do 0 and 1, you would do it that way and not this. Right? What else? So does this have to be of the same type? Do they all have to be numbers, or can they be strings and numbers, or can they be different things in one? Exactly. So you're calling this something, right? You're calling it an array. What is an array? Is it a data type? Is it like a number? Is it a string? What is it? What is an array? Exactly, it is, but that in itself is a data type. It is a data type. It's just like your When I say data type, I mean something like a number or a string, right? So this is how you would declare it. Again, when I say declare, a lot of you hadn't done your assignment 7 properly. When I say declare, I mean when you call something a variable, it's a declaration. This is the declaration statement. Initializing it is, yep. Mm-hmm. No, not the exact same IDs that are in your HTML code. I'll explain this later. I get your problem. A lot of you who'd come up from my office hours, they had the same issue. I'll explain it after the lecture. But yeah, when you call something a variable, that is declaration. And when you assign, so when I say VAR tax rate, this is declaration. When I say tax rate equal to 0.07, this is my initialization. I hope it makes sense. You can only initialize something that you've declared, or you can also do VAR. There's also initialization, but you can only first you declare stuff and then you initialize it. For an array, this is the way you define an array. You basically do VAR, you give it a name, just the exact same way you would do it. But in this case, it's automatically, as we saw, if you want to mention it as a number, you would do number off, right? There isn't, you don't have a string type, or you cannot call it a number. But in arrays, you have to do equal to new array. In this case, I'm saying my array has 10, my array's size there, the stuff that has 7 is 10. You could also do without this. You could say it's just new array. It would define it as an array, and my array would have nothing. I will show that to you in JavaScript. Okay. Is it visible? Okay. So I would say VAR, I don't know. Let's call it ARR again. New array. This is how I create an array. This is my initialization for an array. I'm just saying my variable ARR is an array. If I do console.log of ARR, what do you think will happen? It's an empty box. Can you see it? That box is pretty much that whole box. I hope this makes sense, right? It's just an empty box. I'm not giving anything in it. I'm not doing ARR of 10. Remember, I had new array ARR of 10. If I say 10 now, what do you think will happen? The box should increase, right? Think of that as a box. Your square brackets are just a box. If I run, your box has 10 empty items. You're basically creating an array of size 10. You don't have the 10, 20, 30, 40 high and anything in it yet, but you're just saying, I'm creating an array of 10 of size 10. And you're saying, and when you print it, it just gives you 10 empty items. How would you create an array that you have values inside? So let's do that, the 10, 20 stuff, right? Instead of this, let me comment it out. Again, hopefully you have the recording and you go through this. I know this in itself is slow, so I'm trying to make it as slow as possible so that you guys get it. New array of, you would do 10, comma, that's the second line that I have written there. So you would do var, my array is equal to new array, item 1, item 2, item 3. So here my item 1 is 10, my item 2 is 20, my item 3 is 30, my item 4 is 40, and then high, and so on, right? I'll just do 5 for now. When I print this, what do you think will happen? You have a box, pretty much your exact same thing as there, your tax documents. It has contents 10, 20, 30, 40, and high, which is exactly what we've given in this case. Do you get it? So if you know the contents beforehand, you're not getting it as an input dynamically, you could just create an array this way and you could say, this is my array contents are these. But if you don't know, say for example, this case, I know you guys are my students. So for spring semester, we've already started putting out the course content for the spring semester. I don't know who my students are. I have 25 free slots for this section, for section 1. It could be anybody. I would just create an array and say I want to store all their, I don't know, the records or whatever. I would create an array 25 with empty boxes, right? That makes sense, right? I would just create an array of empty 25 boxes and I'll fill each box on the go. I'll show you how to do that, but I hope this is a good starting point. So if I want to say fill the first box, again, as the indices that I indicated starts from 0, remember, funnily enough, I told you it starts from 0 to the number -1, right? So in that we have 7 boxes. So we go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So when your size is 7 here, remember, you can only access till 6. Make sense? Your size is 25 here. What do you think will happen if I print out, and this is how you access, so let me show you what happens if I access the first one. As I said, it's 0, right? The way you would do it is ARR square box, the same way this box is indicated here. You do that square bracket and you would do 0. What do you think it'll output? In this case, it won't do anything because, but if you have it this way, you have your array of this, exactly, you got it. What would be 1? So on, right? It goes till 4, which is high. What is 5? Yep, you got it. 5 doesn't exist. 5 does not exist. This is what we have for loops for. Yep. Good question. Extremely good question. A lot of programmers don't know that themselves. It's just how programming started off. It's because in your memory, in your PC's memory, so that whole 0 thing is how it's stored in the memory, right? It's how it's indexed. So when you start off with 1 instead of 0, say I have a 10 terabyte memory in my PC. When I start off from 1 instead of 0, I'm basically saying you start storing my stuff from, say, 1 terabyte instead of 0, and you have 1 to 9. So you're not using all of your memory, if that makes sense. Do you get it? So when you say 0, it's 0 to 1. Your 0, the 10 in that case, is 0 to 1. The memory in the PC is 0 to 1. It's not really 1. Does it make sense? 1 is where it ends, right? It's 0 to 1. The content in itself, it's stored in a space. The space has um, a variable. I don't know. How do you explain it? It's continuous. It's not discrete. You get it? Yeah. Um, okay. So I hope this is clear. So if you have an array of size 5, and if you try to print array in square brackets 5, it's not going to print because it will print undefined because it's not there. I have an array of 5 here. What if I want to add, say, to this, I want to add 50. I want array of 5 to be 50. Will I be able to do that? Yes or no? No, but I don't know it yet. For example, I'm taking it as an input from the user. I'm saying prompt and oops, enter a number, right? Uh, Let me call it num. I want to put in num as array of 5. Will I be able to do that? Yes or no? How many of you say yes? Hands up. Only 1, 2, 3. You can. You got it right. So you can basically just say array of 5 equal to num. That's pretty much it. Now, if you do console.log, let's print out the entire array instead of just 5, and let's see what happens. Enter a number. I'm doing 2. Let's read. What is my new array now? It's a variable length. Do you get it? You can increase the length as you go. So hard. It's so hard. Life is so hard. Um, okay. But do you see another difference there? Do you see something off? Yes. You're saying this? Oh, is it? Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get what you mean. So just call the last element, right? You have 6, remember, now, and your 5 will return, oops, will return 2. You get it? Instead of doing, when you do console.log of array, you get the entire box. Do you get it? It's, so assume each one of those boxes has 8 bits, which don't assume it actually has only 8 bits. I hope you learned this in your, I don't know, your reading stuff or whatever. Uh, Assume each of those has 8 bits. Again, it has 8 bits. So your 0 to 1 would be 8 bits. And for your 6 stuff, for all of your 7 boxes that are there, you would have 7 into 8, 56 bits stored, right? When I do console.log ARR, it gives me all the 56 bits. I get the entire box. When I do console.log ARR of 5, it gives me only the last 8 bits out of those 58 bits. Makes sense? Okay, forget it, but why do you think, what does this mean? Yep. Yep, you got it. You made too many of those mistakes yourself. Did you not? So is that an error or no? Ideally, we want it as a number, right? It's not an error, it's a logical error. Yeah, if you want it as a number, this is the exact same mistake a lot of you. This is why most of your assignment 7 wasn't working. For whatever reason, you guys did not put a number, and now it's a number. So anytime it's a number, remember JavaScript just assumes every variable is a string. Anytime it's a number, explicitly mention number. We're going off of random things. There's so much to show you. I showed you this, right? Yeah. So this stuff is clear now. Arrays are you kind of okay with it? Is a container is a collection of items of various data types. In other words, arrays allows us to store things like numbers, words, and more. 2 ways arrays can be declared. Remember declaration and initialization, what they mean. Declaration is just you saying it's an array. Initialization is you giving values for the array. Another interesting thing that we can note here, it's kind of annoying doing array of 0. So basically we have array here, and like you said, wisdom, we're doing array of 0 separately, we're doing array of 1. It's kind of inefficient, right? So if I want to display the entire thing, I would have to do this like multiple times, 0, 1, 2. Can you think of a better like optimized way to write it, or automate it, or whatever? Can you think of something? Good, good idea. That's what we have functions for, because you can. But then again, you would have to call your function for every single index, right? Your index. When I say index again, again, the people, I don't know if you're watching it in the recording, index is the zeros, ones, twos, three, fours, and so on, right? That's what we call the index. Another term that you will have to know, just like your declaration and initialization, index or indices basically means the number inside the square bracket that you use to refer. So basically, array of 0 has 10 stored inside it, right? So instead of, when you want to get to 10, the only way you can get to 10 is if you have 0. So think of this like a password for your PC, for your pen drive, whatever. This is your password. If you pass it to your array, you'll get this back. You cannot get 10 without knowing it's in index 0. That's the exact same thing the tax document thing follows as well. You cannot get to Wisdom's tax document if you don't know his documents are in the third drawer, and so on. Ryan, second drawer, and so on, right? You have to know those indices. Without the indices, they don't work. The optimized way that I was talking about doing this is what we have for loops for. For loops for. Oh. This is how you write a for loop. You write the word for, open up curly brackets. You have a variable. You can define the variable outside as well, but you don't know what a for loop is. Based off your intuition, do you think I need to use var or let, or can I use either? You guys know what LET is by now. If you've done your extracurricular assignment, you will. If not, then you can use either, but what is more appropriate to use in this case? Would you want VAR? Would you want LET? Would you prefer one over the other? Exactly. You would want let. Ideally speaking, I would do let. Uh, I don't have enough time to go off to spin off on this. Hopefully you did your extracurricular assignment. You would understand what I mean. Um, we'll do VR. Let's not confuse it. You would do something like we have. How many do we have? 5, right? Good question again. Good question. I miss Alex. She would have just gone off on a lot of these today. Yeah. It's I because I stands for index. Yep. It's a short form, but appreciate it. I mean, I would, if you could call it index, then do so, please. These are things that programmers don't question. It's good that you guys are coming up with these. I can't even think about the last time someone asked me why do you use I in the for loop. That's a really good one. Um, yeah, so you could do any variable. Your variable can be named anything, but it will make sense if you name it something appropriate, something descriptive. In this case, it's an index. So you would do that. This is how we write a for loop. I've written the entire stuff. I'll go through that stuff. How would you access every single? So we saw array of 0, what array of 1, and all that, right? So how would you? I want console.log. I want to print it. What would you do? How would you get every single? So firstly, what this does is it creates an index variable named index with index 0. The condition here, it's I mentioned a condition here after the semicolon. This is why I kept saying use semicolons properly in your code. Your code would have worked even if you did not use semicolons. But you will understand the need for semicolons here. The semicolon basically indicates that your declaration is over, which is your variable declaration here. I hope you guys can see it. Here, I have my condition for my variable. I'm saying do the following task inside these two sets of brackets, basically console.log here, as long as my index variable is less than 5. What is it now? It's currently 0, right? What does this index plus plus mean? Index plus plus basically means index is equal to index plus 1. Let's not confuse you now. Let's just do index is equal to index plus 1. My index is 0 now. It's less than 5. This does it. Okay, this happens only after you go through this. I don't know. Does it make sense? Does it add up for you guys? What we've been doing for 40 minutes now? It does. So when I do, I'll show you what I mean. I'll show you what I mean. It's just too long. Let's see what happens, right? This is the best way to learn. What is happening? I'm printing index. So I'm saying my index is 0. Do this as this is the condition as mentioned there. Do this as long as the condition satisfies, which is index less than 5. After you finish doing whatever is in between these two brackets, do index is equal to index plus 1. So the order of execution is initialize variable. This is forgotten. After it's initialized, it's forgotten. It runs the loop as many number of times. It checks only this condition. Remember, this is the first step. Once you go into the for loop, this step is forgotten. Index 0. That's it. It's forgotten. You check this every single time you run the statements inside this. And after you finish running the statements inside this, you do index is equal to index plus 1. So the order of execution again, you go through this, you initialize it, you go through this stuff, you check if this satisfies the condition, you go through the stuff, you increment this, and then you do it. It's confusing, I know. I definitely know it's confusing, but so you can see with what it prints, right? When I print index, it prints 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is array of here ARR of 0, ARR of 1, ARR of 2, 3, and 4. We have 5 elements. Does it match? It won't be high because what are we printing here? We're printing index. How will you access 10, 20, 30, 40, and high? How do we see? So Forget index is a variable. It's a number for you. Right now, it's a number for you, right? It's just 0 to 5. That's all it is. How will you do it? Array of index. You get it? What do you think will happen now? It'll print the entire array out. So this is what we have for loops um, for. Is it confusing?
So is the index plus one
It's basically, so let me go through the execution now, right? So it says index equal to 0. It goes inside, it checks for the condition. Is index less than 5? Is it? You guys have to answer along. Otherwise, I'm not doing this. It's not worth it. Index is 0. Is index less than 5? Yes. It goes in, it executes it. It does ARR. What do we say index is? ARR of 0. What is ARR of 0? You get it? It does index equal to index plus 1 now. So index was 0 before. What is it now? You get it? Index is 1 now. It forgets this. It doesn't go through this, the first thing before the semicolon again. Index is 1 now. Remember, is index less than 5? Yes, it does array of, what is index here? 1. What is array of 1? It prints 20, right? We're doing console.log. It goes through, does index equal to index plus 1? Array is 2 now. Index is 2 now. Is index less than 5? What happens if, so on, you do till your index is 4, right? Because when it hits 5, when you print out 4, when you do array of 4, your index becomes 4 is equal to 4 plus 1, which is 5. It comes, checks, is 5 less than 5? Is 5 less than 5? Nope, it's less than or equal to 5. What will happen if I do this now? What do you think will happen? Exactly. Last one's undefined because it does 5, it checks less than equal to, what is array of 5? You have 5 elements, but it's 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's how it's stored in the memory. There is nothing for 5 here. It's an empty space. So your empty space is undefined. Make sense? Okay. I mean, is the best I can do. I'm sorry. Is there another way of doing this? Is this the only way of doing this? Can you think of a better way of doing this? We're basically defining an a variable ourselves, and then we're saying do this again. Get used to the notation index plus plus, which is what which basically means index is equal to index plus 1. I'll add that as well, that you can take a picture of it if it helps. um, I'll do this now and I'll show you that it works. It'll still work because index plus plus basically means index is equal to index plus 1. Can I do, instead of this, you know that index plus plus works. Will plus plus index work? How many of you say yes? How many of you say no? Whoever hasn't raised hands for either, you get 0 in assignment 8. How does it sound? Raise your hands for at least one. How many of you say yes? Yes. Nobody. So all of you have to raise your hands for no. I'm just saying, if how many of you are saying no? Okay, all of you did. It will work. It will work. It basically means the exact same thing, but in another order. But I don't want to get through that. It's this is too much for you guys. It's just, it basically does this right after doing, okay, forget it. It's just stick to index plus plus, right? Be a traditional programmer. Stick to this. It'll work. What else? We'll get back to the presentation. I have a lot of stuff. We saw this. I hope you haven't forgotten the thing we did before. How would you create an array of a certain size? In that case, we want 7. Where did I put my marker? Oh, thank you. I hope you haven't forgotten this. This is an important step. If you want to create an array of a certain size, in that case 7, you would, oops. You would put a 7 here, pretty much. Okay. Okay, we just saw what a loop is. We did a for loop. We saw what it does. A loop is a coded statement that allows us to repeat a process or another piece of code based on a condition a certain number of times. So in your question 5 for extra credit, if you had read the question properly, I wanted you to repeat asking me for the coordinates a certain number of times, right? If I said I want to put in two coordinates, when I say two coordinates, I mean 1, comma 1 and 2, comma 2, two sets of coordinates. You should have asked me the question twice, right? This is how you do it. It makes sense. Let's not get into that. You guys have PTSD from that now. But yeah, when you want to do a certain number of when you want to do anything a certain number of times, remember the stars that I showed in the last. This extra credit again. You're going to do it by yourself. You want to do this 81 times in this case. Joey has read 81 books or owns 81 books, whatever. You have to print 81 stars. How do you think you can do it? You just sat through it. How do you think you can do it? A loop. Yes, exactly. A for loop. Uh, so yeah, you use a loop when you want to repeat a process a certain number of times based on a certain condition. There are three steps. Initializing a counter variable for looping. Again, I hope this is clear by now, which is var equal to 0. Initializing a counter variable. You don't have to use var, you can use let, but whatever works for you. Apply a condition to the variable, which is the condition that gets checked every time before you go into that piece of code. And you increment it after doing the piece of code that's within those brackets, basically three major steps. And you have to follow these steps. Is exactly what I went through. You initialize this, var equal to 0. You forget it after you've initialized it. You check for this condition every single time before going into the loop, which again, if it is 5, you check I less than 5. And you do I++ after you're finishing this bunch of code inside here. Okay, finally, let's get to the code. It's 450. We had this open for some reason. We haven't even gotten into it. Take a look at your, again, if any of you came late, I will be extending today's lecture by at least 15 minutes. We need as much time as we can get. Take a look at the code, go through it quickly. It's code that you should be familiar with by now. Function print array. These are the functions that we did last time. You're writing stuff, document.write. Again, I hope you know what document.write does by now. It just writes stuff onto the page. Let me show you. Oops. Oh yeah, by the way, Jaden solved Q5. This is her submission. It works. If you guys wanted to see, she's in this class, by the way. If you didn't know Jaden, she sits right there. If you click on rotate, oops, well, it's not working. That's fine. I'll explain it, but oops. Should I click on enter point first? It worked for me before. Sorry? I don't know. It was working. Right, okay. Enter point and then rotate, right? It opened up a new page, so I remember that. Okay, take my word for it, it works, right? Yeah, it counts, it counts. Oh, and I created, by the way, since you guys have been doing the order items and stuff, I whipped this off in like 3 hours. So if you guys are proficient with it, you should be able to whip it off and it's basically tracking your driver stuff and all of that. I hope I could give you an assignment like this instead of 10 other assignments, like one project, but try doing something like this. It's cool stuff. Where were we? We were in the web page. Why is the web page not open? Okay, here we go. So this is the web page we had, right? Document.write pretty much just writes stuff into this document. So instead of another quick question, how can you write HTML code inside JavaScript script commands? Yes or no? Can you write, see, can you say in this case, I want a H1, right? I want a H1 array tasks, I want a H5, whatever, people in the numbers, and say all of this goes in the P tag. Can I write that stuff inside my script tags? Can I? You can write it inside of your script tags, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Another discovery. So you can just do document.write, and what are these tags? Does BR sound familiar? Yep. You can do document.write this in your script tag. It's inside your script tag. It will just pretty much run it as HTML code. Can you write JavaScript code inside the HTML tags? As in your body or whatever. You can do it using the script tags. If you're not using the script tags, can you do it? Nope, you can't. Good. So yeah, these are the functions you have. Quickly going through it. This function just prints an array A. It just is document.write, replace this. Document, just of the name, you can tell it's an array, but otherwise it's a variable A. So should I be passing A to this, or can I pass anything and will it just consider it A? Should I pass an array to this, or can I pass anything to this function? Forget it. We'll be writing the stuff for this. We'll be writing the code for this, but okay. So basically, we'll be printing the array, which, remember here, what we saw something here, right? What is this stuff? Does it look like an array? Does this look like an array? Does this look like an array? This, this. It's not an array, but it's something you get. This is an array as well, yeah. But so that's why we're using arrays. So basically, below this traverse box, traversing books owned in order, we need those arrays, right? So we're creating a variable var names. What is this? What does this piece of code do? It creates an array. Think of the same box, the exact same box, 10, 20, 30, 40, but instead it has Joey, Mary, Tom, Mark, Dave, so on, right? It does var books equal to new array of 10. This is names. Remember, this variable, this array is named names. This array is named books. We have books, but we're just saying array of 10. Why? What is the difference between the names array and the books array? The names array has 10 things as well inside it, but it has values inside those 10. But books is just an empty array of 10, of size 10. If I print books, I will get an empty array. It'll have 10 boxes in it, but the boxes will have nothing inside it. And then I'm writing a for loop. I'm saying for var I equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. This stuff can be complicated, but it's basically randomize. You don't have to get through it. We're just creating random numbers for the number of books that each of them own or they've read, right? This is the way you would do it. Basically, what this does is math.random gets you a random number between 0 and 1. You're multiplying it with 90 so that you want something in between. Again, just like you guys did not read through your comments in assignment 7, if you don't read your comments in assignment 8, you're going to have a really hard time. Read through the comments. This is where we have comments for. We want a value between 10 and 99 for the number of books that they own. In this case, just for an example. So we do math.random, which gives you a random number between 0 and 1. You multiply it with 90. So in the worst case, 1 into 90 is 90 plus 10, which should be 100, but yeah, it's around the same. But here, you're doing math.floor off this entire thing. What does it mean? Floor basically means, you know the mathematical operation floor? Do you guys know floor and ceiling in math? You do, right? What does floor do? Yep. So if it's 89.9, it would give you 89. If floor of 89.9 is 89. What is ceiling of 89.9? 90. Yeah. That's basically what floor does. So if you have 89.9 here, it will floor at 89 plus 10, you get 99. In the worst case, you'll at least get 10 because you're adding 10 here, right? This can be 0. Random can give you 0. 0 into 90 will be 0. Floor of 0, 0, 0 plus 10 is 10. You're basically just generating a random number you're saying books of I. What is I here? The same as your index. Remember from the code we just wrote. You're saying books of I is equal to rand. So basically, you're just assigning values. So remember, names, the variable, the array names had the names of the students whose books we were assigning. And here we just created a books array, an empty books array with size 10. We're assigning values to those 10 boxes inside books. And we're saying the random number that we generated here is a value inside. Does it make sense? Sorry? You totally can, so that you see it, but not a prompt, an alert, right? A prompt kind of, oh, you mean prompt isn't taken as an input? 100%, yeah, you can do that. Yeah, that's what you would be doing for your assignment 8. Good segue, good thing to bring up. Here, if you just do prompt of instead of doing floor.random, if you just did prompt, enter a number and store it in rand, and then you do books of I equal to rand, your books array basically has all the 10 values that you've inputted, which is exactly what I want you guys to do for Q5, right? I want you to ask me for so many coordinates, as many coordinates as I entered. Um, yeah, and then we'll be writing all this code ourselves. So once you generate it, I want to print the entire array here, right? I want to print the traversing books on order. Here, you remember seeing a number of a bunch of numbers, 10 numbers, right? So that's basically stored in your books now. So here you would just call this function. Print array is what is the function we have to define here. We'll be replacing this. What do you want to do now? You want to print your entire array. How do you do that? It will be document.write. You're writing into the document. How will you print your stuff onto your page for this entire array now? You guys tell me. Quick, already 5. Oh, wow. It's a long day. Your function is getting an array. Here A is an array. Assume it's an array, right? Prints the array values in order. Your passing is an argument. Remember what an argument means? You're passing an array. How do you print your entire array here? Array brackets A? No. Nope. A is your array. A is the name of your array here. You're passing an array. Okay, let me go through this. So you would write a for loop. Again, anytime you want to print stuff in an array, you would write a for loop. var I equal to 0, I less than 10. We know it's 10, right? We know the size is 10, so we can do this. It's not variable. Or what is another way of you don't know what the size of your array is. What do you do here? Can you do something? Can you get to the size of the array without actually? What do you think this does? Yep. So you can just do arr.length and it'll give you the length of that array. Here it's 5, right? It'll give you the length of the array, but remember your length, even though it says 5, yep, it is -1. For index, it's -1, but your length is 5. So always remember that. So how do you do this? You can either do here less than a.length, or is there something else you can do? Is there another way you can write this? A less than equal to length -1, right? Both of them are same. I won't confuse you guys for now, but number 1. Yep. Oh, in this case, you can just do I get that. In this case, when you write a number in yourself in the code, it is a number. But when you take something as an input from the user, it always converts it into a string. So do I ideally don't do I wouldn't if you do in your assignment 8, if you just did I is equal to 0, I less than 10, I plus plus, you don't get credits. Again, I'm reiterating. If you did I less than 10 instead of a.length, you do not get credits. Use a.length here because the length can vary, right? It doesn't have to be 10, it can be anything. But whatever the length is, it'll assume that length. It'll do I less than 10. How will you access the array? you're doing document.write, you're writing into the web page, and you would do A of I, right? And then in this, remember, there was also, why do I keep losing it? There is also a space in between. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a space in between these two so that we can differentiate. And how do you get that in your code? How do you get that space in your code? What will this do? What will it do when this is basically a number, right? When I add a number with a string of a space, what does it do? Will something happen now in your web page? Nothing will happen. Why? You've written a function to print the books. Are you calling the function? Should you call it? What are you passing to the function? What do you want to print here? Traversing books owned in order. What is the variable? I get it. I get it. I mean, uh, but I mean, I've taken my own sweet time today, and yep, you can watch the video, but looks something like what we wanted here, right? Something similar. You get it? But okay, yeah, it does. It's you can rewatch the video, but what will happen if I reload this? Why does it keep changing? I'm randomly generating it, right? I'm doing it randomly each time. So next, the names, traversing names in order. The names of the corresponding people whose books we're printing here. So 72 is assigned to a name here, right? It's Joey, right? How do you print that? You have a function here. Can we use print array in itself, or do we need another new function? Why? You don't. It's just you're just declaring the function here. You're not initializing it. You can use this for anything. So this is the whole point of the function, right? You can reuse your code for multiple different things. All you're doing here is all you have to do here is print Joey space Mary space Tom space Mark space Dave space Eric and so on, right? Isn't it the exact same thing as you're doing with your randomly generated numbers? Let's see what happens if we call it. The best way to learn is just by doing it. It works. Joey has 26 books, Mary has 11 books, Tom, Mark. It'll match with the order of this if you see. It does, right? Traversing books owned in reverse order. How do we print that? We have a different, do we need the same function or can we use a different function? Or do we need a different function? Can we use the same function? I messed up. No, we need a different function. It's because we have print reverse, you saw that. But why do we need a different function? What's different here? It's the next class. Yeah, screw it. How do you print the next? How do you print the reverse of it? Remember, all you're doing here is just manipulating your variable I, right? All you're doing is just manipulating this. Your stuff here is fixed. It is always 0, 1, whatever till arr.length minus 1. I mean, yes, you can go this way, right? That's all you have to do. So what is this? What is arr.length? 7, right? The length is 7. How do you get 6 in terms of a formula? arr.length minus 1, right? arr.length minus 1 is your initialization. It'll be 6. How do you go back? What is I plus plus? I is equal to I plus 1. What do you have to do now? You're starting with 7. You're starting with 6. If I do I plus plus 7, is there anything here? Exactly. I is equal to I minus 1, which is I minus minus. It goes to 5, so on, right? What should your condition be for checking? We're checking I less than a dot length greater than 0. We'll stop here. Do you need greater than or greater than equal to? Greater than equal to, right? You can do less than -1, but it's a weird way of writing code. So I'll stick to for beginners. I'll stick to uh, oh, find average. It needs to be here. Um, let's do for I equal to a dot length minus 1. When you do this, try to always put it in brackets just in case. What's the condition here? You guys go through the recording. I mean, I'm really sorry, but I'm trying my best. I hope this makes sense to at least follow along if you're not coding along. What are you document or writing? Exact same thing, right? Will anything change? I mean, except for these, will it show up? Forget it, I'll just solve it. Print reverse is what basically we just want to print the books, the order of books in reverse. What will happen now? You have 36 at the end. What is here? 90, 82. Did you change anything inside? Inside, you're doing document.write a of I plus a space in string. You're doing the exact same thing here. What is the only thing you're changing? You're changing only the index, right? Isn't that cool? You're just playing around with the way you access your array, but you're doing the exact same operation in each of them. Does it make sense? Isn't that cool? It is cool. Even if you don't agree, it is cool. So yeah, the way you access it, you can do multiple things with this. You can write a for loop inside for loop. You can have a for loop with a condition. We'll look at that now in a bit. Um, the same way for printing names, can we use the same reverse function or no? Yes, we can. And it will print the exact same thing in reverse order. Now, getting to the average. If the average of books owned in the array is, sorry, the average of books owned in the array is, how do you calculate the average? You get your array A again in as an input. What should you do in the function? Have a variable equal to 0, sum equal to 0, and say for var I equal to 0, I less than a dot length, I less than a dot length, sorry, I plus plus. What should you be doing? Sum is equal to sum plus a of I, right? You add every single number, 10, 20, 30. You have the sum after you come out of the for loop. Your sum has added up every single number in your array. Now, how do you find the average of it? Divided by a dot length. It's 10 here, but it should be a dot length, right? And you just return average, and here you call average is, what is it? What is it called? Find average. Find average of books. Document.write. Yep, they should work now. Your average is 51.7. It works. I mean, you can add it up and divide it, but it does work. I can assure you that. The largest element in the largest number in this, how do you find that? We have another function for that. var largest is equal to 0. var largest index. Why do we need two variables here? A wild guess. Should we do largest is equal to 0? What happens if I have a negative number? If my entire array is negative, if I set, it's complicated, screw it. I'll do a of 0, the first element in the array. I'll just set my largest element as the first one, and I'll compare that with my index for that is 0, right? Here, I'm just doing a of 0, right? I'll do for var I equal to 0, I less than a dot length. Why am I getting this? Is Zoom not recording? Or if it did not, God bless. God bless. Uh, I keep getting some weird. Okay, never mind. Um, I plus plus. What are we doing here? We are. Do we need an if condition? We do. Forget it. If what are we checking? What we're basically doing here is forget this is there. We're saying we're setting 10, which is how do you access 10? ARR of zero, right? I'm saying my largest element is ARR of 0. It's my first element always. As a reference, it's a reference point. And I'm storing another thing called index, which is 0, which is pretty much the number inside the square brackets. And I need to check as I traverse along in my for loop, I need to check if the next number is greater than this number, right? Or not the next number, any number. If any number is greater than my largest number, I need to change largest and largest index, right? Does it make sense? So how do you do that? If a of I, which is the index you're currently on, a of I can be 10, 20, 30, or 40, greater than largest, what are you doing? Largest a of I. And your largest index is equal to I, right? I'll show you why, because we're find and return the index of the largest element. Read this. Important detail comment. Always read the comments. This is what we have comments for. We're returning the index. We're not returning the largest number. So what do you return here? Largest index, right? Which is the variable we've stored here. And where are you calling it? Find largest index of books. Your largest will be what will your so this returns an index. Remember, this returns an index. Your where is your index? What are you trying to print here? Books of where, right? Where is your index? Where is your I here? You get it? We are returning the largest index, which is your I here. So where pretty much has your I, and you want books of I, which is your largest books. And who has the largest books? The array names of where? It is tough. I feel you. But yeah. Um, if you look at this, it's 95. Second last from 95 is Dana. Uh, it prints the largest books is 95, which is correct, and Dana owns the most books, so it works. But yeah, you can leave. You can leave. I mean, the next professor is going to kick me out anyway, who comes here, so you can leave. Uh, okay, the bar graph for displaying books owned by each person. Wait, forget it. I'll take it in it. It's this part is yours to do. The last part is yours to do. Remember the star stuff that I showed? I showed you multiple times. Hopefully, it's yours to do. You have it's instead of Q6. I'm giving you this. Uh, trust me, it's for your own good. If you cannot do that, your assignment aid is going to be something. It's 25 points, by the way. It's 25 points. So, yep, I want you all to do well. So, extra credit, you email it to me as always. I'll send you the answer key by Sunday night or something. But I'm taking attendance. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Exact same, 11:59. Yep. You know what?